G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now, if you love me as much as I love you, you would mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Steve-O would a kangaroo. Maybe even chuck a kangaroo down in the comments. Now, with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chug a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some good content. And our first post is by Trevor Chico, titled, "Car Dealer Swapped the Car, Found Out the Next Day." California. Last Friday, my sister bought a new car in Oakland, California. She test drove an all-wheel drive Toyota RAV4. She signed the paperwork and drove off. She noticed the all-wheel drive button was not there. They switched it for the two-wheel drive. Dealer refuses to take the car back, wants an additional $8,000 for the all-wheel drive version. She contacted the 3 lenders that hit her credit and was able to cancel the loans before any were approved. She froze her credit with the 3 bureaus. She is making a police report tomorrow and has Toyota Motors involved, but they are almost zero help. She is trying to get the police to take the car as evidence, and I don't think they will. I assume the dealer will try and self-finance the car from here. Anything else she can do here? Looking at small claims court now. Edit, she found out that the car was technically not new, but a rollback from when financing fell through. They did not disclose this. Edit 2, she has a text saying, "Let me look into this to see if it was a mistake or spec, or if you were actually sold the wrong car, and if so, I'll see what they can do to fix it." Update, the dealership got it financed. A contingency attorney who only sues dealerships has signed into the case. The case was not disclosed as used. It was sold prior as a spot delivery. The financing fell through with that buyer, and in California, you have to disclose that. She's entitled to the car described by VIN on her contract to purchase, and obligated to pay for that car. It seems like an intentional misrepresentation, deceit, or concealment of a material fact known to the defendant. A clear case of fraud in California. What evidence of that fraud does she have? The contract to purchase is the entirety of the transaction. She would need something compelling to make a fraud case. OP wasn't given the car she purchased, and was asked to pay more when she went to get the actual car. Important info. Did the paperwork list the vehicle as all-wheel drive or two-wheel drive? Is the VIN, also on the paperwork, a match for the vehicle currently in her possession? Paperwork does not say it's two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The VIN does match the car. Well, if the VIN matches, then the dealership did nothing wrong. They sold her the correct car. And update, car dealer swapped the car, found out the next day. This didn't get a lot of attention, but I thought I would share because everybody said my sister was out of luck. But she prevailed. She found an attorney to work on contingency who litigates dealerships in the area. After reading the contract she signed, he took the case. Once she told the dealership she retained an attorney, they said, "We'll give you your money back and your old car, but you have to come in and sign today." She said, "No, send me the paperwork that you want me to sign so my attorney can review." They told her to go pound sand. The attorney called them that week and they buckled, returned the deposit and her old car. I guess they didn't disclose that the car had been sold prior as a spot delivery, but the original buyer returned the car when financing fell through. So if you're scammed by a shady dealership, have an attorney read your paperwork. Her attorney was really nice to her and said he put almost no time into it and didn't charge her or get anything out of it. What a nice guy. And our next post by Tyler's Hot Wheels, titled, "Can my mum stop paying child support because I don't want to go to her place?" I'm 16. My parents got a divorce when I was 4. The custody agreement is that I live with my dad and go to my mum's every other weekend. There was an issue with my mum's boyfriend, and now my dad has decided I won't be going anymore. That's what I want. I didn't go this weekend as planned, and she's mad about it. She has texted me that from now on, she stops paying child support since I don't go anymore. She says now she doesn't have to spend money on me since I'm not going to see her. I'm not her responsibility anymore. Thing is, my dad really needs that money. He works hard, but we're not doing that well financially. Can she do that? Thank you. I'm in Ohio, if that matters. So, child support is not an access fee. It's a measure to share the burden of raising a child. Even if your mother had no right to see you at all for some reason, she would still owe support if a court has ordered her to pay it. Your father can and should go through the state's Office of Child Support to enforce the support order. He should also ensure that he complies with any orders regarding visitation, which may mean making you available to her for scheduled times, whether you like it or not. Your dad should not be encouraging the breakdown of your relationship with your mother or violating his half of their custody orders. Okay, thank you. My dad doesn't want to hurt my relationship with my mum, but he's afraid her boyfriend is going to abuse me. Usually he makes me go even when I drag my feet, but this time he said no way. The presence of an abusive person is also something to bring up when talking to the Office of Child Support. You should not be forced into an unsafe situation. And now, update. Can my mum stop paying child support because I don't want to go to her place? Many people were worrying about me, so here is an update. I'm safe at my dad's place. My dad just talked to a lawyer on the phone about custody. The lawyer told him to file for emergency custody. He said it shouldn't be difficult to get full custody in these circumstances, and since I'm 16, I can be heard if I say that's what I want. So I'll be safe, they can't make me go to my mum's, and she can't stop paying child support. My mum also texted me that finally she believed me. That usually doesn't happen. I'm glad she did this time. I'm surprised that she did actually. She confronted her boyfriend and he said he talked to me about porn, but he wasn't aware that would be a problem. She pretends he's apologizing. I'm not sure of that, to be honest. Anyway, she won't be kicking him out for the time being, so I won't be going to her place. I'm tired of her drama anyway. My auntie made me promise I will talk to the school counselor when the school reopens. She says what happened is not normal and I need to talk to someone, and that will do me good anyway. I'm not sure I want to do that, but I promised so I will. This was a difficult moment for me. I was very worried. But you people helped about custody and child support and all, and that made it easier, so a big thank you. Actually, I showed my post to my dad this morning, and that was easier than telling him certain things. Before, he was saying that Reddit is a waste of time. Maybe he'll change his mind. And our next post. My girlfriend is being harassed by her co-worker over the coronavirus. So my girlfriend has lupus and asthma. One day, about a week ago, she had trouble breathing and it got bad enough an ambulance came out and gave her a breathing treatment. Since then, her co-worker, who is an older woman, has been causing scenes at work about her even when she's nowhere near her, accusing her of putting everyone at risk and refusing to go where she's been. The manager sent her co-worker home one day because she wouldn't stop. Today, she found out her co-worker called the CDC and reported her and has been trying to get other employees on board to get rid of my girlfriend. My girlfriend shows no symptoms. Because of her condition, she already took tons of steps to stay clean and healthy, so we were already prepared when all this started. It has been extremely hard on her, since she already hates being in the condition she's in. Is there anything we can do? Edit, thank you everyone for the advice. As of now, she's filed a report with the store manager for harassment. Being a small company, they don't have HR, so from there, their manager will be involved. Apparently, they're saying that the store is considered disaster relief, so they are not shutting down. I will be talking to her about still taking time off though. I know she's afraid of losing her job or not being able to keep up with the bills, but we will make it happen. Thanks guys. So JCWA50 says, OP, your girlfriend needs to document everything, keep all the texts and emails, and then look at her boss, and say that this is starting to look like harassment, abusive and possibly hostile, that either the co-worker needs to stop this. Speaking of the boss, does he know what the medical issues are around your girlfriend? He may need to be informed as such, even given medical information about such, so he knows and then he has to take action. Because this could get to a point where he and the company could get into a lawsuit that can cost, well, the kind of cost gets managers terminated, along with other people for allowing this to happen. Now, if there is an HR, get them involved. I have asked her to document everything and keep whatever is related. Her job is aware of her condition. And I just really wanted to read this one. I'm sorry that there isn't an update to this post, but I thought it was, important that we're aware of what's going on out there. And our next post, Wallach Matolik, says Cuomo signs bill to guarantee sick leave for New Yorkers during COVID-19 outbreak. Hey all, I have a small business with 25 employees in New York City. Governor Cuomo has recently signed this law into place, and it states, medium-sized employers, which includes employers with 10 or fewer employees that have a net income of greater than $1 million, and employers with between 11 and 99 employees, would receive at least 5 days of paid sick leave, followed by eligibility for paid family leave and TDI benefits. Due to everything going on, we will most likely have to shut down tomorrow. I'm trying to figure out what is the best to do for my employees. With this new law in effect, if I do not lay them off, does that mean we are required to pay them 5 days of sick leave or anything else? Given our industry, I don't believe they would look for work anywhere else or be able to find it. Would you suggest laying everyone off and providing them info on how to file for unemployment benefits and then rehire when things calm down? I am drafting out an email to them all now, so I appreciate the help. Do you have a lawyer you work with normally? If so, I'd ask him to review the email first. Better to pay him a small fee than to deal with a wage complaint or lawsuit. Unfortunately not. I did make sure everything would be okay with our accountant and workers' comp rep. Both said this would be fine, and seems to be becoming the standard in our area right now. Please, please, please don't take legal advice from accountants or insurance reps. Yes, many of them like to play lawyer or think they have a grasp on the law. They don't. These are complicated issues that can open you up to real liability. Hell, even if there isn't liability, the cost of defending a bogus lawsuit can bankrupt many companies. You need to have a relationship with a lawyer or a small law firm that can help with business issues and employment law issues. Yes, it's going to cost money, but in the end, it'll be cheaper than the alternative. And I guess I liked this one on here because it gives you an idea of the other side of business owners and what they're going through during this time, so there's a lot of hard decisions being made right now. Oregon. Neighbor cut down several trees on my property, claiming they were a hazard. What do I do? Would you look at that, it's tree law. Hi, a friend told me to check this sub out for legal advice. I'm not sure whether this is worth getting a lawyer over, but I am pretty ticked. So I moved into my current house about 2 years ago. It's a beautiful 3-acre property, mostly flat except for about a dozen large trees bordering part of a road that runs alongside my property. I'm not sure what type they are, but they're pretty big. I think they're oaks? I love them. They provide some great shade in the summer during part of the day and are just pretty. My neighbor doesn't like them. He's not really my neighbor, since his house is quite a bit down the road, but he is the closest one to me. When I first moved in, he came over and introduced himself and asked if I planned to do anything about the trees. I was confused and told him no. He told me a little bit before I moved in, one of the trees had a branch break off and fall into the road, causing an obstruction that lasted a whole day. According to him, anyway. He said the previous owner didn't care and didn't cut down the trees, but he, the neighbor, hoped that I would. I told him I would talk to the previous owner and see about it. I did that, and though it was 2 years ago, as I recall, the owner told me he went out and moved the branch the moment he saw it. We talked a bit more, and I decided to not cut the trees down. Like I said, I liked them. Anyways, that's all the backstory that I think matters. So I was away this past week/weekend, visiting family for our annual reunion. I come back and honestly almost drove past my own house, because I was so used to seeing the line of trees, and they weren't there. He cut down all my trees. I immediately went and asked him, and he said that he had them removed due to being a hazard, and that it was legal because the city signed off on it. I was livid, but just left, and told him to stay off my property. There aren't even stumps, guys. They are completely gone. I asked my other neighbors, one who lives down the road the opposite way and another across the way, what happened, and they said he had a company come out there cutting them all down all week. One of them asked him about it, and apparently he showed them some document from the city, and that gave him permission to remove the trees. Is that true? Can he just remove my trees? Should I call a lawyer about this? Should I call the city? I don't even know where to start. It's left that whole area of my property an ugly strip of dirt and loose earth. I know the trees are definitely on my property. The previous owner and real estate agent walked around with me, and I remember them showing me the extent of the property, and it's not like the trees are right up against the road. The trunks were like 15 to 20 feet in from the road, and were probably like 15 feet apart. I'm not sure, but they stretched a pretty good amount along the road, and some of the branches definitely hung over the road. What should I do? Edit. So I've meticulously been checking this for comments. Thank you so much to everyone who has offered advice. I also called the previous owner, who was rather surprised to hear from me, and told him what happened. He was also ticked. He told me those trees had been there since before he bought the house, 20-something years ago, and he also told me what kind. He says they were white oaks, but I'm gonna go with what some people suggested and hire an arborist to come out. By the way, I should have been more clear. Whoever removed the trees didn't take out all the stumps. I mean, like the classic 2 feet stump wasn't there. They were trimmed down to like a few inches, barely noticeable, and there is still lots of loose dirt. Like they tried digging or something. I also saw the comment about a paint sketch and made one. So there you go guys, I hope you like it. It's neighbor's house, road, trees. My property is all this square plus more and down, where my driveway is, and to the right a bit, and that's my house. That's a lot of damn trees to remove, not gonna lie. I'm going to talk to the police tomorrow and see if I can talk to whoever is in charge of these matters with the city. Hopefully they can tell me if they gave permission to my neighbor or not. Thanks everyone. Quick update. Hi everyone. This blew up overnight and I am so thankful for all the advice. This was a busy morning, but I think I'm on the right track. Some of your comments were shocking. Are trees really worth that much? I know my neighbor is a little wealthy since he told me about a summer house he has in Sun River. Is that okay that I mention the general area of his summer home? But I don't know if he paid for this or what. I went to the police first thing and asked to report trespassing and possible vandalism. The officer took down my story and I even brought him some photos, which he asked to keep. He then told me, and this kinda ticked me off, that unless I had proof of my neighbor cutting these trees down or giving authorization to cut them down, it may turn into my word against my neighbor's. He suggested I just pursue this in court myself. Is he right? I don't want to question a police officer, but I want to be sure. So while at the police station, I asked who I would talk to specifically with the city about permits and tree removals, and the officer told me to try the public works, which matched what a user commented. Thank you. I went home and called them. The lady asked for my street address so she could check it against their records, and I did, and she found nothing. Not a single thing. She said there was nothing regarding my address or property in the last 6 weeks. I noted that and thanked her. Then I called an arborist, like many of you suggested, and made an appointment for later this week. She, the arborist, also asked that I have some photos of the trees when she comes, which is fine since I have more. Finally, I looked up companies that do landscaping or logging or tree removal, covering all my bases, since I really don't know who would handle the tree removal anywhere other than a forest. Anyways, after calling a few places, I got one who confirmed that they did the job, and told me they were following a city order. That call was after I called the lady at the public works for the city, and she told me there was no record of my address. Did my neighbor lie to this company? They didn't ask me for more details, and when I asked who showed them the order, they said they couldn't tell me. WTF? Is that true? I'm going to look up some law offices in my general area and reach out about all of this. Does this fall under a specific type of law office? Like, should I hire a specific lawyer? Sorry, I'm really out of my league here. I'll let you all know what happens though. Thank you again for the support and great advice and support. Edit to quick update. The company was a tree service, by the way. Didn't even know that was a business type. They aren't exactly local, but relatively close by. They didn't tell me what happened to those trees either. Looks like Oregon has a treble damages tree law. You might want to look into that. Your neighbor might need to sell his house to pay for these trees, lol. Crap, man, the trees themselves are probably conservatively around $10,000 a pop. I'm no arborist, but that seems to be the minimum value for a up to 20-year-old tree. There are 12 of them in the paint sketch, so that's $120,000 right there. Treble damages makes it $360,000, and that's a low conservative estimate, not to mention the labor to actually transport and plant them. Oof. Based on my recollection of my arborist days, simply moving mature white oak trees any significant distance, which involves digging them up, lifting them, containering them, think a very, very big wooden bucket, about a half the size of the crown of the tree, lifting them onto a truck, getting that oversized load to the site, off the truck, and into the very big hole you've dug, is going to run something like $15,000 each, before you even add in the cost of the tree itself. I just described a 2 to 3 month process, since trees aren't exactly migratory and don't really enjoy moving. There are a few hundred man-hours involved in this scale of a project, and those aren't unskilled laborers either. My days of being a certified arborist are long behind me, and it was the other guys in my company that did projects like this. But my best guess is that purchasing and relocating 10 mature white oaks is going to run closer to $500,000. Based on a sale price of $20,000 each, and adding in the moving costs. That doesn't mean that a judge will necessarily agree with the number, but I think that it's a more accurate starting point. And now guys, update! Neighbor cut down trees on my property! Hello, legal advice community! I have not forgotten about you, who helped me set me on the path to justice. I'll just get right to it. I can't speak to all the details, and I'm sorry about not continuing the update. After everything got underway, I figured it would be best not to. To keep it short, we, my lawyer and I, spoke to the police, who then spoke to my neighbors down and across the street, the one who witnessed my trees getting cut down, who stated that they saw my neighbor in the company cutting down the trees, and then finally they spoke to him, the neighbor. I don't know much beyond that with the criminal investigation. What happened with the whole city document or the company, and why that is will be explained below. I hauled his ass into court. Well, first the arborist came, as did the surveyor. The trees were on my property and they were white oaks. The arborist gave me an estimate on having 15 mature white oaks brought and replanted onto my property, which was just shy of $650,000. Though he did say some trees would die and that would drive the cost up. I also had my property appraised for the difference before and after losing the trees. It then became a question of whether I wanted to pursue my lost trees and see how much their lumber was worth, or sue for the replacement cost and loss of property value. Basically, do I want the trees back, or do I want the cost of the ones I lost? Apparently, you can't have both. Well guys, I picked the trees. The actual court stuff started a lot sooner than I thought. We filed, a few weeks passed, and a few days before our day in court, his lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. Apparently, he was wealthier than I thought. We accepted, and while I can't speak to the details of it, I'm getting the trees back. It's going to take a long time apparently. Several months, possibly all the way until September, since the process didn't start until just this week due to the holidays. But I will have all 12 trees back on my property at no cost to me. My neighbor has also put his house up for sale, and I haven't seen him for quite some time now. Oh well, there's a bit more to this settlement, but I don't feel comfortable speaking to that. Hopefully that's understandable. I remember some of the comments about whether the trees were a hazard to the road based on how far they were from the road. I ended up having to check with the county, not the city, and they sent someone out to measure and mark the boundaries. My trees were at least 5 feet beyond it, so outside the boundary, not even close. Just thought that I would add that in. Anyways, there it is. I plan to take photos of the trees once they start getting put in. And of course, once they are all in place and I have them back. I'll be sure to share them. I want to thank everyone for all the advice. It was a huge help. I didn't know you were all so into trees, but I'm glad you are. Have a good one, everyone. Now, I know how much you hate liars in this community. Yes, I know, I'm sorry. He lied about posting the video of the tree. Can we get a rip this man's white oaks in the chats? Also, wow, I can't believe I've been lied to. But what a good story. And our last post. The CEO of the charity I volunteer at is exploiting workers, moonlighting as a slumlord, and is acting as if OSHA and the FLSA don't apply to charities. So this is employment law. I'd like to apologize ahead of time for the whole lot there is to read here, and that there are a bunch of questions/issues packed in together. I tried to put them as nicely together as I could. This is happening in PA. For years now, I have volunteered with an organization that does a lot of good. It is a registered charity, and almost everyone who works there is a volunteer. However, there are several paid positions, most notably the vet and the clinic manager, who I believe are being exploited. I will just lay it all out, because I suspect some of this has to be illegal/reportable, but I'm not sure which bits. The two girls could also really use any cash they could get from the back pay as well, but I don't want to get their hopes up and suggest to see someone without some sort of confirmation that they'd have a chance. I have watched several wonderful people come to work for this organization, filled with a desire to do good, only to be exploited and broken down by the demands of the person at the top, who owns the charity. About a year ago, our last clinic manager quit, because the job was destroying her mental, emotional, and physical health. We went 4 to 6 months with no clinic manager, and it was a mess. Finally, the quote-unquote CEO of the organization found a new clinic manager, a 19-year-old who was in a crappy situation. The CEO installed this girl as our new clinic manager and rented the apartment above our clinic to her and her then 17-year-old sister, who was fleeing parental abuse. It's a long story, so I'll stick to the things I think might be violations. Specific to the two girls, the 19-year-old was told she was classified as an independent contractor, which seems to be a misclassification according to the stuff I read online, since she was on constant call, and her position was the very definition of the clinic's day-to-day work. She was told she would be working for free for her first week as a quote-unquote trial. There doesn't seem to be any paperwork involved in a lot of this. When the 19-year-old was offered the job, she was promised a lease and a work contract, neither of which was ever provided. The 17-year-old signed a typical volunteer form, and there is one printed out record of a payment 2 months after they started with the rent cut out. But that's it for paperwork either of them ever saw or signed. The clinic manager was told from the beginning that it would be a 50 hours per week job, and that she would be paid 40 hours a week after the 60-day trial period if she was able to keep up. In the meantime, she would be paid 20 hours a week. In actuality, she worked about 60 to 80 hours a week, in addition to being constantly on call, including the frequently, well, since you lived right above the clinic, go down and do this for me. Her then 17-year-old sister would also work these long hours next to her, not being paid, just not wanting her sister to have to do the massive workload alone, and also having a love of rescue. They were never given an actual lease, which meant the 17-year-old, recently 18-year-old, has not been able to establish residency and therefore can't get on any sort of social services. Some background on that. The 17-year-old fled her abusive mother from another state, who threatened to call the cops, claiming that she was kidnapped if she established residency, but would allow her to stay with her sister otherwise, I'm guessing for tax reasons? At one point, the girls were told to leave the apartment for a day and make it look unlived in while an inspector came by. There was an emergency exit stairs recently built, which has a board nailed over it from the inside. The stairs going up to the apartment have clearly sunk half an inch away from where they started on the wall, leading to you feeling like you were running downhill when you walk down them. The apartment has no laundry. Originally, the girls would just use the clinic downstairs laundry. Once the CEO fired the older girl, all the volunteers were very upset, and the CEO told the girls they were no longer allowed in the clinic because they are making her look like a monster. At that point, the girls had no ways to do laundry for a bit over a month until they moved out. Payment for the apartment was taken directly out of one of the 2 paychecks the 19-year-old got. When the CEO fired the older girl, she offered that she could still work off the cost of the apartment. When the 19-year-old said no thanks, the CEO then upped the rent by an extra $100. And generally for the clinic itself, there are no OSHA or FLSA posters anywhere in the clinic. There is no eye wash station, and I feel like there should be one. We deal with all sorts of stuff that would be bad to get in your eyes. There are no fire extinguishers. Again, I don't know for sure, but I feel like we should have a few. The place is made of wood and we use oxygen tanks. Tons of hazards, very little to zero training on them or anything. There is no breaks. I, as a volunteer, commonly work 8 to 10 hours with no break, but that is a choice I make, as no one really takes a break. The vets get no breaks and gets yelled at over taking 1-minute bathroom break over this time period. I always have to force the vet to stop 30 seconds to eat or drink once or twice a day, cause she gets hangry, but is afraid the moment she chooses to eat is the moment the CEO will walk in screaming at her. The tables for surgery are the wrong height for the vet and non-adjustable. The CEO often goes against the vet's advice, even on things such as bite protocols, or when animals come in with wounds of unknown origin. The vet says they need to be quarantined and watched. The CEO puts them right back out. The CEO takes money out of the vet's paycheck for things she did not consent to and things that didn't happen. There is more I'll probably think of later, but that's all for now. I can elaborate on any of the points you have questions on. Now, the CEO also treats volunteers like crap, and over the last year, I have watched as almost everyone that was there when I started has left one by one, 100% from the treatment of the CEO. I understand none of this is legally actionable, but I will say I am sick and tired of watching this abuse. Our organization does a lot of good, and on the other hand, I hate the idea of causing it bad press that could influence the number of donations we get. But that's one for a moral sub, not a legal sub. Main bits that I'd like advice on. Is anything I have listed something that is somehow legally actionable or reportable? And if so, what do I do about it? Is there anything I could recommend the vet who recently quit or the now fired clinic manager do? Could the clinic manager be entitled to back pay? I think so from what I read upon it, but I'd like a more qualified opinion. I'd really love any advice to place or start on how to get the now 18-year-old onto some sort of social services. She is currently living with my mum in Delaware, but her last documented residence was in Florida, and there is no lease, since my mum is letting them stay for free until they can find a place. So nothing to show the DMV. She also doesn't have her driver's license, GED, or high school diploma, and I want to somehow get her on track for that as well. I should add that the CEO created and owns the organization, is very well known within the org for being massively spiteful, and has screw you levels of money. I don't want to suggest anything to anyone that will end up hurting them. Honestly, I'm really not sure what to do, but would really appreciate some advice. And Not Quite Good Enough says, call OSHA directly yourself and report your concerns about the safety issues. They will apprise you on if they are actionable, etc. These workers need to contact the PA Department of Labor directly to file a claim on wage theft. Thanks. Is it simply a matter of calling them up and telling them the whole story, and they give advice? Yes. PA doesn't have a state OSHA, so you'll deal directly with the feds. They deal with both for-profits and non-profits. It says you can file a complaint by calling your local OSHA regional office. In states with approved state plans, employees may file a complaint with both the state and federal OSHA. If there is any emergency or the hazard is immediately life-threatening, call your local OSHA regional office or 1-800-321-OSHA. Good luck. And I there's no update for this one either. I'm sorry it's another cliffhanger, but it's crazy that people like this have situations in their life, and I don't even think there is anything you could do in this situation. They would just throw so much money at you. But that's me as a layman, as a YouTuber. I don't have enough knowledge of the world, and I can't give any legal advice. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode though. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And as always, I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!